I got over 116 ARCs, or new books, at BEA this year, between BEA and BookCon. To do them all in one video would be absolutely insane. So I'm going to try to break them down by if they're signed, or if I have a personal story to add to it, I will try to do that. Here we go. First book up is Pop Sonnets, signed by Art Didrikson. I was in line for that one, so I'll show off the signature. It's very cool that he actually had a space right under his name for the actual signature, if you see in the book, so that's pretty cool. And his website is really excellent. You should check it out. Check out his Twitter. This is from Quirk, one of my favorite publishers. It will be coming out in October, and a review will go on my website, my regular website probably, or I might actually do a video blog. That might be my new way of doing reviews. I haven't really decided that, but let's continue on. I found this book when I was in the press lounge. I am a fan of Prowse, so this should be something quite interesting. Calvin Reed was one of the independent publishers at the show. He actually had this pretty cool thing with a test and everything at his table, and I was glad to get the book, and he was a cool guy to meet. This is another Quirk book. It's called The Big Bad Book of Bill Murray. This will actually be coming out in September, and it is also signed by the author, and that's that one. It's by Lisa Jacob, and it's called You Look Like That Girl, because yes, she does look like the girl from Independence Day and Mrs. Doubtfire, because she is. This was also signed, and it was a pleasure to meet her, and I will be writing her and doing a review of that. It's a book that I basically grabbed because it's Jim Henson. It could be interesting to read. A man who could possibly become our president. Probably not, but Rand Paul, despite his God-loving proclivities, which are very Christian and seem to go against everything else he believes in, I am interested in reading his political thoughts. So, Vince Flynn, The Survivor. Again, a very controversial man in politics, Sir Newt Gingrich. He wrote a political thriller, though, with Pete Early, and I have a feeling it might actually be quite interesting. I did not get to meet him. I know he was signing at Expo, but I did not get to meet him. And that actually comes out in October. This is Beastly Bones by William Ritter. This is scheduled for September 22nd. Just sounds like a really interesting period piece. It takes place in the 1800s with paranormal detectives and stuff. Next up, we got Food Whore. This was also signed by Jessica Tom, and this will first be coming out in October of 2015. And Jessica Tom was a pleasure to meet. There's the personalization, and she's a chef and a great food blogger, and this is a fiction novel, so it'll be really interesting to read. This is The Unfortunate Decisions of Dahlia Moss. I had heard about this before the show, and I wanted to pick up the ARC. If I can read it in time to come up with a blurb, I will. This is original. This is actually coming out in October, so should hopefully have plenty of time. This is one of the bigger books of the show. It was handed out pretty much every day, but I grabbed it first thing when I got into Book Expo on day one, 9 o'clock. I believe it was 9 o'clock, or 1 o'clock on that first day. It's the first thing I grabbed. Oscar Uellos' final book. It's posthumous, published posthumously, and I'm really looking forward to reading this one. Comes out in November, and it should be really fascinating. This is a memoir. It wasn't something I was actually planning to grab, but as I was walking by, they described it, and it just sounded really fascinating. Dan Marshall goes home to take care of his ailing parents, and the memoir and whatever happens actually, I guess, was enough to create a book. So it should be an interesting book to read. This is one where I was walking through the show with my showmate, best friend of the family, Brianna, and this one just caught our eye. It just sounded really interesting. It takes place in Philadelphia. I love Philadelphia. It's like one of my favorite places in the world, so it should be good to read. Next up is Paul Theroux. This was actually another one of the books that I was looking forward to grabbing. So this is coming out in September. And Paul Theroux is just one of those great writers. This is another one of his interesting books. This is actually more memoir, so travel and stuff. So this should be something that should be quite interesting. Next up is the next book in the Bone Saga, the Kathy Reichs Bone Saga. It was a pleasure to actually meet Kathy Reichs for the first time and get her to sign my book. And you might not be able to read it. It says that she agrees that Booth is sexy. We got a conversation about Seeley Booth in the show. You know, you can't really get an idea if Seeley Booth is sexy in the books. He probably is, but, you know, Dave Boreanaz is just pure sexiness, and there's no denying that. Cuckoo Land by Gloria Norris. This is a memoir. She was a assistant to a lot of film directors, and her story should be really interesting. This comes out in January of next year. For the record, the new Kathy Reichs book comes out in July. This is a memoir by Clayton C. Anderson. He's an astronaut. He actually has a Wikipedia page, so he's, you know, not just anybody. It's a pleasure to meet him. I have a photograph of him through my Flickr and stuff, and because he is a noted person who has been on TV and known, you know, he was there in his NASA outfit, so, you know, this just came out recently. It's available in stores and on Amazon and everything, and I highly recommend it. When I was at the show, I was sitting with my friend Brianna's father, Colin, and this guy, David K. Brown, was walking around. Interesting fellow. I believe he's a preacher, but he's also a writer, and he gave me his book, so you can look him up. Look up David K. Brown on the internet, and I'm sure you can find his books. He actually gave me 2 books. Not sure where the other one is. This is another book that was in the press lounge. It's called Candy from a Stranger by Darrell Bruckner. Don't really know much about it, but it actually sounded pretty interesting. It comes out the end of the month on June 29th. It's just a cool little investigation of a child goes missing and the father goes looking for him. It sounded just like an interesting book. So, new James Patterson coming out, scheduled for August. This one with Michael Elledge. And I'm not sure if this is part of a series that already exists or not, but it's a New York detective story, and it looks pretty good. Next one was actually a really great person to get to meet and get the book signed. It's Jesse Eisenberg. You may know him from quite a few films like Zombieland, and I know he signed the book, but I can't seem to find the signature in here. But I have a photograph of him actually signing the book, so I know he signed it, and I know he must have personalized it. But I can't seem to find that in here, which is quite interesting and confusing. But, here we go. There was actually a great section. There was where you can write it on a coffee table and on a placemat later in the book. So that should be it's a collection of stuff. He's the new Lex Luthor, if you also don't know that. So that should be really good. This is a big book of the show. Big book for me. Ernie Cline's new book. If you've ever read Ready Player One, you know how great he is. Ernie Cline is awesome. They were giving out these. It just fell out of the book. Sorry for the bad camera work for a second. I apologize. I'm not re-editing this. It's crazy. It's already too long, but I gotta get this out. This is a patch they were giving out called Armada. It's great to see Ernie Klein. We actually have a long history together. One of his best friends is Shappy Sheeschultz. We did Urbana, a poetry slam that we did together for years. I am very shocked that I am saying the word very often, but to edit it would be insincere. And I want to be sincere with being my first book vlogging kind of thing. This is a book I'm really excited about. It is coming out in July, and you should go grab it while you can. By the way, Jesse Eisenman's work comes out in September, and he actually has a show right now on Off-Broadway, and he's doing really great. Next big book is, this was a big book of the show. Penguin Random House was giving these, this is an arc. That is correct. This is a hard cover arc for a book that comes out in October 20th. It is the big book of the show. I don't even know what the final book is going to be looking like. It might look really insane, but this is crazy, and Illumini is probably something you'll be hearing a lot about in coming up months. I said I might not edit this, but you might see some jump cuts. So James R. Ben, I've been getting his Billy Boyle books for quite a while. This is the next one. This comes out in September. They're World War II mysteries. They're absolutely fantastic. If you've never read one, get yourself one of these James R. Ben books. This is another book that was in the press lounge. It caught my eye. Seemed pretty interesting. It's by Niles Rader. It's about a guy who becomes, I believe from what I can understand, he was a government killer, and now he's figuring out what his next life is. Could be something interesting to read. Here's the other David K. Brown book. So it's David K. Brown. Go look him up. And here's the final book I'm going to show you. This is The Ables by Jeremy Scott of the CinemaSins on YouTube. They're way better at any of this than I am. This is supposed to be a great book. I'm really excited for it. It's actually out and available now. It's about a bunch of kids who go to superhero school. They have superpowers, but they're in special ed because one's like in a wheelchair and another is blind. So it's them figuring out, okay, we have superpowers, but we're not allowed to use them because we're handicapped. And I'd go check this one out. And I'm going to close this. You'll probably see some jump cuts, and I apologize. I try to look at the camera. This is all new to me. Alright, there'll be more.